We appreciate him joining us and participating in this event. Tonight, he'll discuss his latest book, The Kaiser's Web. The book festival unfortunately had to be canceled for this year due to the COVID pandemic, but we were able to preserve several of our programs related to it. Our online short story writing contest for middle school students in Nassau County, as well as our $5,000 AEL Foundation scholarship. Those awards will be awarded at our May Awards ceremony on May 14th at another virtual event, and we welcome you to join that as well. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Bill Amos. Bill is our board member as well as executive committee member who has been a staunch supporter of the book festival for many years, and we appreciate him very much. Bill.
Thank you, Larry, and welcome everybody to our first Zoom event, and I think you'll all find it to be a lot of fun. For most of you, Steve Berry probably needs no introduction, but just want to remind you that he's a best-selling author. He's published 20 novels, 41 languages, 52 countries, and has over 25 million books in print. Steve graduated from Mercer University Law School. He had 30 years as a practicing attorney. 14 of those he served as an elective office. And Steve is a perfect example of perseverance because he had his first book published after writing for 12 years and having been rejected 85 times. And then he's gone on to great things. Steve's a winner of multiple awards, both for his writing and his philanthropy. His novel, The Templar Legacy, was named one of the top 100 thrillers of all time by NPR, and he's an emeritus member of the Smithsonian Library Board. He's a founding member of the Thrillers Writers International, which has 6,000 members, and he served as co-president for 3 years. And of course, as Larry said, we know him as our honorary chairman, and through his tireless devotion to our book festival, he really moved us into the big time, to the prestigious event that we have become. So a big thanks, Steve, to you for that. But Steve's not the only literary light in his house. We're also going to be joined tonight by Steve's wife, Elizabeth, or Liz Berry. Liz graduated from the University of Georgia, which, being a Georgia Tech graduate, I can forgive her for that. She studied international marketing at the University of Innsbruck in Austria. She was the director of Thriller Fest, which was the annual writers meeting for the international thriller writers, and then she became the executive director. She also is a co-founder and co-owner of 1001 Dark Nights, which is where they work to increase best-selling authors' brands and expand relationships within the romance genre. And since their first release in 2014, they've sold over 3 million units. For those of you familiar with Steve's books, he often refers to Liz as his Cassiopeia. History is important to both Steve and Liz, and the heart of what his books and what makes it fascinating. One of my favorite parts of the books is at the end when he tells you what part of it is actually true and what part he made up. He and Liz founded History Matters to promote preservation of our heritage. And he runs multiple events, including teaching writing classes and other activities, with all of the funds generated from those going to different local preservation projects. And since they've been doing this, they've taught over 3,500 students. I was lucky enough to be in a couple of their writing classes. If you ever get a chance, you should definitely take advantage of it. And they've raised $1.5 million for their causes. I think Steve's new book, The Kaiser's Web, is one of the best he's ever done. Every time you think you have it figured out, he throws in a twist that you just were totally unprepared for. And I would suggest, if you want to know what might have happened to Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun, this is a must read. So with that, Steve and Liz, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when we get towards the end, we'll have some questions coming in.
Unmute.
Okay,
Ah, we
we
did it.
got it.
Good. Hey,
Technology. We finally figured it out. All right. Good to see y'all. Good to, I can see some of you up there in the top. I see Marie's here.
And thanks, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all those
Yeah.
kind words. And I love the decor that you have
I
around
do.
you there too.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah. And a lot of people might wonder why I'm here because this is a Steve Berry event, but we've done so many events with this new book. And what happened was Steve was looking at the screen because we're not live
A little green dot.
and he was getting a little
It's a little weird to try to,
lonely.
it's hard to relate to a little green dot. You just sort of look at it and you can do it for a while, but it becomes a little problematic. So we brought Elizabeth in and
Yeah.
we've done a bunch of these. And so we thought we'd talk to you tonight a little bit about the Kaiser's Web. Behind me, you can see my new office. This is those of you who remember I moved. We live in Orlando now, and this is the new house. And so this is my new office. And we're coming to you live from there. And Elizabeth is here to engage in a little conversation on this book.
So you might learn a little bit about our marriage, but you guys in Amelia Island have been around us so many times that you know our banter. But we haven't talked about the Kaiser's Web in a couple of weeks.
It's been a little while. We did a
Yeah.
virtual tour when the book came out, February 23rd. We did about 12 virtual events, but we haven't done one in a while.
Yeah.
But
So,
we can get right back into it.
Yeah, we
So
can.
Go for it.
well, so a lot of times when we do a book event, one of the biggest questions that Steve gets is, where do you get your ideas? And they come from a lot of places. As you all know, we know so many of you personally. We travel and do lots of different things. This one, though, is a little bit strange where this came from. And particularly for people who live in North Florida, they're going to like where this came from.
Yeah, I was at the Chamblin Book Mine. Y'all have heard me talk about it many times. I was just there, in fact, a little while ago. We now live 3 hours from the Chamblin Book Mine, but I'm still going to go back there on a regular basis. And I was just there about 2.5 weeks ago. But I was in there about 4 years ago, and I was researching another novel, had nothing to do with World War II or anything. And I don't know, I just got a little tired and I've been at it a while because when I go, I stay 4, 5, 6 hours in the store. And I noticed a book on the shelf and it was on a subject completely different. And so I pulled it off and I started thumbing through it. And I stumbled onto something that I had no idea actually happened. It happened in the latter part of 1944. It involved Martin Bormann. It was fascinating. I didn't know if it was true or false because I just saw it in one book. But when I subsequently studied it a little bit more, I discovered that it actually did happen. It was true and it occurred. And it was the germ of this novel. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that is, unfortunately. For those of you who have not read the novel, I would be giving away a major plot point. But those of you who have read the novel will know what I'm talking about, something that happened in late 1944 with Martin Bormann that began to alter things for the war and for after the war. And the book also deals with what happened on April 30th, 1945, in the Führer bunker beneath Berlin. Now, this is not a book about Hitler surviving the war and the Fourth Reich taking over and all this stuff. That's not what this book's about at all, far from it. In fact, it's about something very different than that. It is a book about someone else who was in the bunker that day, someone else who left the bunker after that day, and who officially has never been heard from ever again, and that is Martin Bormann, who was there. So I wanted to explore Bormann, fascinating character. I wanted to explore the things that he put into motion, things that still have relevance today, things that are going to affect the German national elections, which are taking place in the novel.
So, as Bill mentioned, Cotton and Cassiopeia are very close to us because Cotton is you, and Cassiopeia has a lot of my traits. What some of you might not realize is there's even conversations, specifically fights that we've had that Steve will put in the books, and I'll, read along and say, there's no privacy. So the conversations are in there. But in this book, you did something a little bit different with their relationship. So can you share what that is and how it's kind of
Well,
come along?
In every novel, every Cotton Malone book, I explore an aspect of Cotton's personality that I've never touched before. And I delve into it quite deeply in that particular novel. So each book you learn a little bit more about Cotton and how he thinks and his inner workings. This book, I wanted to do something I've never done. And all the other books, Cotton and Cassiopeia, have been at each other's throats. They've been either antagonistic or outright conflict, or different areas and not coming together. They never worked really as a fully integrated team. And that's what this novel did. This is where they're not fighting, they're not fussing. They love each other, they trust each other, they're going at it. He goes off one direction, she goes off another. They come back together. They both save each other's butts on more than one occasion. They are a working, functioning team. And it was fun to do that. And I'll probably do that some more. They work well together as a team and they do a good job.
You seem so shocked.
Well, I actually, for a writer, you want conflict because conflict is always good into a story, but sometimes it's just fun to have them just go at it. And they did. And they did a great job. And I think them as a team is something that will keep going.
Right. So people also ask a lot of times, what about the research? Because you guys know that we travel all over the place. And with COVID, did that change things? So it did a little bit. Now, we were lucky because we've been to Germany many times, but there are some places in this book that we were not able to travel.
No, we couldn't go to South America or South Africa. We were supposed to go to South America the early part of this year, but of course that's not possible. So, it'll be places that we will end up going to. I want to go to the Chilean Lake District. I'd love to see Bariloche. I'd love to go to South Africa. But I just wrote this book the old-fashioned way. I did it from books and travel books and pictures in magazines, and also dealing with people who actually lived there and who were familiar with the area, who gave me a lot of insight to it. As I've said many times, you don't have to go to an area to write about it. It helps, it's great, but you don't have to. And I did this the old-fashioned way.
So that kind of segues into The Office. And
The Office.
Well, it's really fun to have you guys here and you can see all of this. So I thought,
I'll show them.
yeah, I thought
You've had me talk about it. You've had me talk about it before. If you look, right over my shoulder, right back here, right,
Which one?
right here.
This one?
Yeah, these right here.
Oh, these.
Yeah, those are all of those shelves and the ones next to all of those shelves are full of the little travel booklets when you go to like a castle, and when you're done and you go down to the gift shop. I buy everything from every place I go to and I bring them back. There's probably 3,000 or 4,000 little pamphlets in those right there. And I have them arranged by country so I can find them fairly quickly. So those are those. And then over here are my Savannah. There she is.
I know. So this is the current book he's writing.
Yeah, those are the books. Like I made a stash from the Chamblin Book Mine a couple of weeks ago. I have about, I don't know, about 100 books there right now. I can only do it about 100 at a time because I just don't have room for them all.
And then all of this.
Those are my 19th and early 20th century travel guides from all over Europe and all over the world, because things overseas don't really change. So if I need to know the color of something or where it's situated, those will tell me that.
And I love this one.
These are her favorites right here.
These are my favorites. I think they'd be a lot of your favorites too. These are the Bodeckers.
The little Bodeckers. I collected those from, I have about 10 or 12 of them.
19th century?
These are 19th, early 20th century. And these were the travel channel of their day.
And there's like fold out maps.
Yeah, like this is the one for southern France. So if you
Isn't that so cool? Sorry.
If you were going to southern France, you would take this book with you, and it tells you every little detail.
Every little thing. But there are so many maps. Like, you see all these folding out places. So there's maps.
Like I said, the travel channel.
Amazing. Yeah.
And these were wonderful, and I've been able to collect about a dozen of them. They're hard to find, but they're very helpful to me. So this is where I work now and where I write each day.
Right. And what about this box?
Oh, wait a minute. She's still rambling around.
Oh,
Here she goes. Here she goes.
yeah. This is fun. We never used to do this.
Oh, no.
Okay.
This is all trouble.
So if you ask, if you ask, how does Steve write a novel?
Well, let me tell them.
Okay.
300-400 books, remember, I used for research. While I'm going through those books, I make notes,
Notes.
and then here are the notes. You can see they get quite,
But there's
big.
like stacks and
it's
stacks.
about so tall about this tall
Yeah,
for
it's
each
really tall.
novel.
And then there's folders, and then there's like a huge stack of this size note.
Well, I just use whatever papers
Right,
available.
and then this one, what is this? This is from when we were in Key West on the Steve Berry fan trip. He just wrote down one thing and it gets stuck.
You
in
never
here.
know, it gets in there.
Yeah, so I just think, like, look at this one. There's like different.
I keep them,
kinds of
I do them by
paper.
subject matter so
This
that
is
I
from the
can
King of
find them.
Prince and St. Simon's, like any.
I just use
It's all
scrap
these
paper.
scrap paper
Scrap
pads.
paper is what I do, because I'm gonna, when the book is done, I'm gonna throw all that
It's
away.
so cool, and he throws it all away, which is
Throw it all
heartbreaking, but.
I
yeah.
mean, it does,
Because what happens is he uses something and then you can't see this, but he'll draw a line through it. So he used this sentence, so he draws a line through it, draws a line through it. So at the end of it, so much of this research is just struck through that it's not really worth saving, unfortunately.
can't use it twice.
Right, well,
So, can't do it again. So that's how I keep everything over there by the desk. This office is kind of nice because I now have everything in one room. At the old house, I had everything in 2 rooms. And so it's nice to have everything where I can find it now.
so that was a fun tour. So now tell us what's coming next. So we
Oh.
talked about the Kaiser's Web, but what do we have in store for this year?
Well,
Well, not this year, next year, sorry.
there's some changes that come. I'm leaving my publisher at Minotaur, and I've moved over to Grand Central Publishing. And for next year, Cotton's going to take a year off, and I have created a new standalone character. It may turn into a series. He's a standalone right now, but he could easily turn into a series. It's a fascinating character that I've had in my brain for a long time. He's younger than Cotton. He works for the United Nations. Same kind of story, action, history, secrets, conspiracies, exactly the same, but different characters, different motivations, different things. It's been fun to create a new world. I haven't created a new world since 2012 with the Columbus affair. It's going to deal with the most stolen and vandalized work of art in history. And I can't tell you what that is. You're going to have to look that up and see if you can find it. But there is such a thing. And this book is going to delve in and deal with that. It's a really, really interesting story. It's been a lot of fun. It's tentatively titled right now, The Sacred Panel. And so we'll see. It will come June, right now scheduled June 14th of next year. And then there'll be, Cotton Malone will be back in 2023, 2024. And along the way in those years, Luke Daniels is getting his own series. There'll be 3 books with Luke Daniels. They're going to be co-written with me with the great thriller writer Grant Blackwood, who wrote for Cussler and Clancy and Jim Rollins. And he's agreed to come on and help me with Luke Daniels. So there'll be 3 adventures. There'll be a little more action adventure than Cotton, but there'll still be action, history, secrets, conspiracy, but a little more action, a little more adventure, a little more Cussler-like.
Right.
And so I think the first one of those comes in 23, and then 23, 24, 25. So a lot going on in the next few years, a little different for me, a little different.
So one thing that I know a lot of these viewers would be excited about, because some of them have traveled with us, is do we have another Steve Berry trip happening?
We do have one. It was supposed to happen in 20, put it off. 21, can't travel overseas right now. We've scheduled it for May of 2022. It's going to go to Poland, and we're going to see all the things from the Warsaw Protocol. We're going to go and see the salt mines. We're going to see the Black Madonna at Czesnakowa. We're going to see the Wawel Castle. We're going to see Krakow itself. We're going to spend 7 days there. If you're interested in going, you better hurry. There's only 2 or 3 slots left. We limit it now to 1 bus, whatever we can put in 1 bus, and that's about 50 people. And I think they've got about 46, 47 right now. So if you want to do it, you can go to the website, click on events, and there's a link that will take you there, and we'll see if there's still some room. But we're going to have a good time. That's all going to depend on whether it's safe and everything's good. But hopefully by May of 22, the world will be fairly vaccinated and we'll be back somewhat under control.
So I see that there's actually a few questions popping up. So let me see if I can.
Well, Bill was going to ask.
Oh, it's
us
Bill.
that.
Oh, thank God. Bill.
Bill can come back on. And
Bill can
ask
come back
those.
to us.
Bill is eating dinner, I guess.
No,
now.
no,
He's
he's
gone.
gonna come back.
He's gone.
I think I can get the first one. I saw something about Cat and Cassiopeia.
Yeah, I can see them myself.
Yeah.
There they are. There they are.
So, oh, will they get married? Will Cat and Cassiopeia get married?
I mean, that's a fair question. I don't think so. No, I think it would, I think it's more fun to keep them not married because they both live in different places. They both have different lives right now.
Right.
And merging those two together would be a bit of a problem. I think it's better to keep them like they are, to keep the sexual tension going and to keep things that way. I just think it works better and for the longer run. So probably not have that. As y'all well know, I didn't want to even keep them together. That was her doing. That was her doing. I broke them up in the Lincoln Myth and I was going to keep them broken up, but she wouldn't allow me to do that. So
No.
they're back and they'll stay together now.
Yeah, but I agree about the marriage thing. They're a little bit more nimble right now with the way they can globetrot because they're not married. Oh, the end of the Kaiser's Web suggests they're getting closer and closer. I think they are getting closer and closer.
Oh, no question. No
Yeah.
question about that. Absolutely.
But they might date for a long time, like really close.
Well,
dating.
you have to understand in Cotton's world, time is stood still. Time's not going along like it is with us. I stopped time moving in Cotton's world about 8 books ago. He's always staring down 50. She's always just shy of 40. There's no time differential going on there. And I learned that from Cussler. I mean, Dirk Pitt, my God, it's been going on 40, almost 50 years now. And, Dirk's still going strong. He's still got his kids and everything. So in Cotton's world, time has frozen. So I'll keep it like that always.
Okay, and then this question, do you plan the whole series out in advance and pepper each book with foreshadowing for the next one? Or do you try to make each a standalone, but with a hint towards the end? That's a great question.
I really don't plan them out in advance. I can't really because it's constantly changing. I do think about maybe 1 book ahead, maybe 2, but I try to keep them. These are standalones in a lot of ways. You don't have to read the novels in any sequence or order. And I do that on purpose. So I try not to make it where you've got to read one to know what's going on in the next one. So that keeps me from doing that. I do have this little thing with Stephanie right now because she's been suspended from her job. And I've kept that going for a couple of books. And I'll resolve that though in 2000. Right now, it looks like 2024, that'll be resolved.
Okay. There's a lot of talk today about extremism in America and its dangers. Was that in your mind when you wrote this?
No, this is not a book about America. This is a book about Germany. This is a book about Europe. This is about the new rights rising in Europe. And the new right does not mean conservatives. It's a completely different concept. The new right in Europe has been rising for some time now. Now, remember, I wrote this book 2 years ago. I wrote the last word on this book in the latter part of 2018. So it's been a long time. And now people have read it and said how timely it is. And man, my God, how did you write that so quickly? Well, I wrote it 2 years ago. So you can see what's been going on. And a lot of people have been coming up and saying, well, this is a book about Donald Trump. It's a book about this and that. It's not. It's a book about Germany and about the rise of the new right. It has nothing to do with America or with Donald Trump or anything like that. It has to do with what's going on in Europe right now and what's been going on for some time now.
Well, and I think that brings a question that a lot of people ask. Your books have been timely or been said to be timely many times, but you write them so far ahead of time. So that was a little bit like what happened with The Third Secret.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I wrote a book, The Third Secret, I wrote in 1999. It was published in 2005, and it deals with a German Pope, which what happened in May of 2005, we got a German Pope.
Right.
It was quite remarkable of all of the things that were very, that I sort of predicted in some ways in that book. This book, as I said, the new right's been going on for a while. There's nothing new about it. I think it's just new to American readers, but we've been over there. We've talked it, we've seen it, and it's something that we need to be concerned about over there.
Will Danny Daniels continue to show up in the upcoming Cotton books?
Yeah,
Yes.
he'll kill me. The real Danny Daniels won't let him go, and I don't want to let him go. That's why I made him a senator. And so he makes an appearance in this novel, and sure, he'll make some more. He could have his own series too, to be honest with you. He's a really good, strong character. And, he was a very strong president. And that's one reason why Warner Fox is the way he is. I had to make him a counter to Danny. I had to make him different than Danny. And I've caught a lot of flack with Warner because a lot of people say, well, he's a Trump parody. He's not. I created him in 2014, before there was any such thing. And I want him to evolve, and he is evolving. Yes, last book, he made some very serious mistakes. He has some problems. Cotton doesn't have a very high opinion of him. But in 2023, there's a movement in one direction, a lot of movement happens in 23, and there's a change in Warner Fox. And I always wanted that. I wanted him to grow into his job and to become a better president and to learn from his mistakes. And that's all it is. It wasn't about politics. You know, I'd say all the time, to write a novel is hard. To write a novel that sends some kind of political message, subtle political message, it's just about impossible to do.
Any update on bringing Cotton to the small or large screen?
Well, they keep talking.
It's going to happen.
They keep talking.
It's going to happen
They
one
call. They call and tell me how great it is, and this
They
is
get
happening.
so excited. And
They
I'm like,
do.
yes. And Steve's like, it's never going to happen.
I don't get excited. I'll get excited when they bring me a check and they bring me a contract and they say, here we are, here we are. But they did renew the option. That's nice. That's good. They renewed the option. So they want to keep trying. It's great they are trying. I wish them well. I hope they do it. But right now it's still just talk.
It's going to happen.
No,
I believe it.
no, it's not.
Fingers crossed. Exactly. What steps did you take to begin the multilingual arena?
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. Does that mean all the languages that you're in? We don't have anything to do with the languages.
What steps? Well, what happens is your book is published, and then foreign publishers contact you and say, we'd like to buy the rights to the book.
They contact your agent.
They contact the agent. They said, we'd like to buy the rights to the book. So they really come to us, and each book, it's about 10 to 12 right now. It used to be 15, 20 or more.
Yeah.
The foreign markets have dried up a lot, but the 10 to 12 are pretty solid. I'm very popular in France.
Well, you're number one bestseller in France. I think you're number one in France, Australia, New Zealand, and Czech.
Czech was the three places.
Oh, and Poland.
That's up in the air. I don't know. I mean,
Well,
they said that. They said we were.
They
I don't know. They said
your
we were.
publisher said.
And but I'm very popular there. I'm popular in Italy.
Yeah.
I'm popular in Poland.
Yeah. You're popular in Greece. You're popular in England. Yeah.
England would be better, but we're there. We have a good presence there.
And
Germany, not so much. Germany likes their thrillers a little grittier, a little more violence, a little more going on, and I don't do that. So they don't draw to mine. Now, France is just the opposite. They don't like the grit and the violence. They like it the other way. That's why I'm very popular there, and Lee Child and Jack Reacher are not very popular in France, but they're very popular in Germany. So it depends on.
And they love you in Budapest.
Yeah, we're very well there. We were on this first Steve Berry advance trip, and we walked around there, and we went into this bookstore just to kill time. So let's go look in a bookstore. We went in there, and it was the weirdest thing. The whole wall was my book,
and they had no idea we were coming.
No, they had no idea. The whole wall, I've never seen anything like it.
It was great.
She wasn't there. I had to go get her.
He was like, come back.
You got to see this. Well, what we learned is the bookstores there in Hungary are owned by the publisher.
Right.
And so that is a publisher bookstore. So they feature their writers very prominently. And that was just my time to be featured. And it just happened that we were there. It was really cool.
That was actually really cool. So if you have more questions, please type them into the chat. I know, and we're doing good on time. If you don't have questions, we'll tell you an anecdote that people typically like to know about your editing process. So for those of you who don't know how the publishing business works.
But these people know this story.
Well, some of these people might not. So I was going to do more the process, not the reward.
Oh, okay.
So Steve writes the book and he edits as he writes. So when he gets done, it's a pretty clean manuscript. At that point, he gives it to me.
That doesn't mean it's right, but it's clean.
It's clean. It's clean. So there's not a lot of typos and it reads very clean.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives it to me. I go through it. I give him my comments. He goes back and changes it. Then it goes to his agent and his editor. They read through, they're going to give their comments. Now remember, all these comments are about story. This is not a copy edit. This is not about a comma being misplaced. They're really reading this book for story, for continuity, to make sure the motivations make sense, to make sure there's a nice flow to it, that has a nice arc, all of those things. Then it comes back to you, you fix everything or about 80%. right?
Yeah, I don't do all of it, but 80-90% I do.
Yeah. Then it goes to the publisher, like the editor accepts it. So then we've got 2 rounds of copy edit, sometimes 3 rounds of copy edit. Then you've got a round of proofread. You've got the mock-up of the book. So when it looks like this is what we call page proofs. When we get pages and they look like this. Now here's the problem. If Steve needs to change something, if I read the page proofs and we find a mistake, he only has this much room at the end of the chapter to make a change. That's called pagination. So if he has to make a change that's so big that it changes the pagination, like how the chapter ends,
That costs money.
that costs money, which I think is really interesting. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, but what happens is, I mean, if you have to make a substantial change at that late stage of the game, something's seriously wrong. And we have had to do that a couple of times because we decided to remove something or to add something to the book. And we all agreed, the
Right.
publisher and all. But like when you get right there, and if I wanted to add something to chapter 32, it ends right here. This is all I got if I don't want to change the pagination.
Right.
So I have to be conscious of that if we get there.
Yeah.
But to the
But
writers out there, you don't want to ever get to that stage of it and make those kinds of changes. The only time we've ever done it is because something in the world happened that
Right.
required that we make a modification.
But I think it's interesting. And I think a lot of people don't understand. Yes, Steve writes the book, but he has a whole team behind him at the publishing house. I mean, you've got a whole team that's doing this cover. You've got, the photographer that does that. This is one of the hardest things to write in the whole book. This is the cover copy. This is tough because you see it has to fit right there. It's got to fit on that flap.
And I've been writing that for all my books for a long time now. And it's an art form that I kind of learned and I was taught and I learned how to do it, but it takes me, that's about 200 words. It probably takes me a month to write those 200 words.
They have to be so tight and they have to hit every point you want to hit and they have to be compelling.
I go over and over
Yeah.
and over and over and over, and then,
Yeah.
then Kelly would go over them. Everybody would go through them and we try to polish it up. But cover copy is very, very important.
Right, because what sells a book to some, not to all of you, because you're great and you buy Steve, but what sells a book to a person who's never read the author is title, cover, and cover copy.
And here's the trick.
That's it. Those are the things.
We'll tell you the trick. The cover itself has to send a message.
Right.
The title itself has to send another message. And the cover copy has to send a third message that taken together,
Right.
all 3 tell you what the book is about. And that's the trick. You don't want your cover and your title to send the same message.
Right.
Difference. This is the Kaiser's web. It's not the German web. It's not that either.
Right.
This is the German flag in the background. And then the copy tells you something different. That's the trick of a cover. I was taught that by a man who really knows what he's doing and does it for a living every day. He tests covers and
Right.
see their effectiveness of it. And that's what you have to learn with regards to covers.
All right, so Marie said, not a question. She just wants to comment on how much she loved the tension in the book, most especially the surprise at the end, which we're not going to talk about. But that's pretty awesome. It had great tension.
Very
This is
nice.
a
Thank
good
you,
book.
Marie.
Thanks, Marie. And then, yeah, shorter is harder. The same with speaking.
Oh, shorter.
Very true. If that's a
Woo.
message for us to stop talking, we will stop.
Shorter is the hardest thing in the world. I mean, yeah, you can. I say this all the time. We used to do an exercise where you describe the room in 100 words, easy. 50 words, easy. 25, easy. 10, yeah. 5, getting hard. 3, 1.
Yeah.
It gets harder and harder and harder as you get down there. So shorter is always better and more difficult.
Yeah. Have we talked about the audio? No. And Scott Brick he's terrific. We love Scott.
Scott does all my audios. He did it. This was not a writer's cut. I did not do the comments at the end. I did do the writer's note. I did read that part of it, but we decided not to do the comments on this one with COVID and all. It was more difficult to get everybody together to make all that happen.
Right. Right.
Oh, Bill's appeared.
Oh, Bill. Hi, Bill.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question, Steve. Earlier, I was talking with you about how flabbergasted I was with the ending of the Kaiser's Web.
Huh?
Did you know when you started writing that that's how it was going to end, or was that something that just sort of evolved over the course of the book?
Came up during the writing of the novel. I had an ending and then I came up with something better. And this ending's very interesting because I don't foreshadow anything until about page 400. I mean, about 90% into the, I mean, really towards the very end of the novel is when the first little hint of what's coming happens. I did it on purpose so that you would never see it coming. I get a big kick out of some of the reviewers on Amazon and other who wrote and said the ending was so obvious. I saw it coming a mile away. I don't know how you could possibly have seen it coming a mile away since I gave you absolutely no hint that was even going to happen. In fact, I actually sent you off in a completely different direction so that you wouldn't have any hint to it. It was one of those things I tried. I told this before, every novel I try to do something new style-wise that I've never done before. And that was the thing for this novel, to have a surprise at the end of which I give you no indication that it's coming. It's not a lie, it's not made up, it's not, you know, false. I've got to earn it, but it's something you should have never seen coming. And I know I fooled her.
You did.
Because she read the book and she never saw it coming either. And if I can
Yeah.
fool her, I can fool anybody because she's eagle-eyed.
Brenda and I never saw it coming either. It just, I think of all your books, this one caught me most by surprise at the end.
Well, I wanted to do that. That was the whole course. Thank you.
Mhm. And you fooled Marie too. And then this is just a lovely comment from Martina. She has several of your books in Czech and you're very popular there. She always buys a signed hardcover for her brother-in-law when she visits Prague. She's been loving your book since before Cotton discovered you with
Thank you.
Romanov Prophecy. And thank you for writing. So you're going to give him the big head. Such interesting, captivating books. No, that's really kind.
We love it in Czech. I mean, we love Prague. We love everything about it. It was it's a great, great, great place. And I've used it in several novels.
Steve, will Danny Daniels show up in the Luke Daniels books?
Well, it may very well there. Yes. I mean, that would be a good place for Danny to come involved. Yeah, because the Luke Daniel books are going to be much more American. There'll be a little bit more of an American angle to them. He'll be overseas some, but the thrust of the book will be more American, where Cotton's going to stay more international. And so, yes, I think that would be a good place for Danny. He's not in the first one, but he certainly could be in the second or third one. Yes.
Are you ever going to run out of historical quirks that you can build novels around? And I'm always amazed at the,
I'm in trouble,
at
Bill.
the
if I
true
do.
facts that are in the book that I think are fiction till I get to the end and read your notes.
Well, if I run out of ideas, I'm gonna have a problem paying for this house. this is how I make a living now. I'm okay till 25. So I'm okay there. 23, I got ahead of myself. So when the pandemic hit, I was okay because I'd already done the research for 23. 24, I want to be in Romania, and we were supposed to go to Romania last May. We'll probably try to go, maybe not next year, but certainly the early part of the following year. We'll try to go over there because I want Romania in a book, have a really good historical hook for that one. And I want to go there. And there's another part of the world I'm very interested in. I haven't sent Cotton to the South Pacific, haven't sent him to the Far East. I've only done Africa this one time with South, and so I'd like to get him back there, and I'd like to get him to South America. So there's some new places for him, and I think we're going to be back on the road again. It's been really weird because we travel, when you add it up, about, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks a year, maybe more than that, maybe 15 weeks a year, a lot. We're on the road a lot. And we haven't gone anywhere, so it's been kind of home, and I've actually gotten kind of used to it. And I kind of like not having to get up and have to be somewhere and have to do it, but we've got to get back on the road. That's where most of my imagination is sparked. That's where most of the ideas originate from. And so I would think if not next year, certainly in 23, we're going to be back on the road.
And you have considered, Marie said, have you considered sending Cotton to Brazil? Yes, you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to get him down there. And I want to go first, though. I'd like to go down there first. And we were supposed to go in January of this year, but didn't work out.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back and start again and get going again. Like I said, I'm okay to 24, 25. After that, we'll see.
So of all the places in the world where you've done research, what is your favorite?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
We love
New
it.
Zealand's just another, it's like going to another planet. It's the South Island of New Zealand is just absolutely magnificent. You have the whole world in one island.
Yeah.
You have Alps and mountains and tropical rainforest and icebergs and penguins and coral reefs. You got
Yeah.
everything in one place there. It is just stunning. I will have to say that's probably my favorite. And I certainly want to try to send Cotton or Luke, somebody, we got to get down
Somebody's
there.
got to go.
It's got to get down there. And the problem there, though, is the culture, the Maori culture and the Polynesian culture. They had no written language. They had no metal. They had not. There's a lot there. There's not there a lot for me to work with there that I normally work with. But that's not to say I can't put a novel together there. And I do have it in my brain. Right below where this camera is sitting is about 15 books on New Zealand that I have been collecting for the day when the time comes.
So, and you're right, Marie, he's never done a story in New Zealand. He wants to, but what was his name? Sam Collins?
I did have Sam Collins' character was originally, and I
from New
wanted to take Sam into his own series and develop that. And who knows, we might go back there again.
Yeah.
That was really, I really set him up with a really cool backstory, but he didn't catch on as well. He didn't fit as well. And that's why we created Luke Daniels. He came up and just did much, much better at it. But that's not to say we can't revisit that again.
Steve, have you ever had a hankering to try a different genre, maybe write something for Liz as 100, 1,001 Dark Nights?
I wouldn't go there, but I would go.
Steve writing romance would be.
I don't know if I'd be, but I would like to do a science fiction book, though.
Yeah.
I actually wrote 10,000 words of one, and I'd like to go back and try to finish it. It's more action adventure, international thriller with a sci-fi angle to it. And I would really love to finish that book because I would like to do that. Yes.
Yeah. And you've done books with MJ Rose, with Cassiopeia.
And I have a finished
Yeah.
novel that is just a pure suspense thriller that deals with something very interesting from small town America. It was very, very interesting. And that's a finished book. And I might see if I can sell that book in the next few years. So I wouldn't mind. Now, the problem is I can't do that in lieu of Cotton. I've got to do it in addition to Cotton. And so, that's the problem. But I'd still like to try to go back and see if I can finish that sci-fi book.
And it would be really cool to do something with the International Space
It would
Station.
be with Cotton in outer space, because I love space. I love everything about it. That'd be really neat. But there's that sci-fi angle again that I'd love to go to.
And if you change genres, you wouldn't use a pen name.
No,
You would just be him.
Now, if you use a pen name, you can't promote the book.
Yeah.
I mean, you're completely anonymous. You can't do this. I can't do what I'm doing right now. Or if you use a pen name and do this, what's the point of using the pen name?
Well, and I think it depends on, each author and brands and genres and things like that.
Different.
It's different. But
Different.
Steve has spent, what have we done? 16, 17 years building this brand. And I think that the readers, any book you write is going to have those interesting things that readers like. So I think it would.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would do just me. I've never been a fan of pen names. There has to be one terrific reason why you do it,
Yeah.
because you're basically hamstringing yourself in the promotion of the novel when you do that.
Right.
Any more questions?
This has been fun.
Been fun to
Yeah.
be back. It's good to see Bill there. And
Yeah.
again, I love your decor, Bill. I hope you take that home with you.
Yes, if Sue will let me, I will.
It's very nice.
Steve, we really appreciate you and Liz taking the time. You've been such great supporters of the book festival over the years. And I hope that after not too much longer of rest, you'll find your way back up here to do this and we can get out on the golf course.
Sure.
Yes.
When we get back that way one day, we didn't tour this year, but I think we'll be back on the road next year, hopefully.
So good to see you, Bill. So good to see all of you. We
See you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for all of you.
All right. Thank you, Steve and Liz.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank everybody who's on the program for listening. I hope you found it a lot of fun sort of getting a little insight into how Steve's mind works with a lot of help and push from Liz.
Thank you. See you later.
And, the new book, Kaiser's Web, is available at the Book Loft, which is where this broadcast has originated from. So we want to thank Sue Nelson for hosting us. And I guess that's the old ball game. Good night, everybody.